Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 83 of the Dads and Ed podcast. We are quickly approaching triple digits sometime in the next year and a half or so. My name is Josh Allen, Tech Integration Specialist for Lewis Central, Council Bluffs, Iowa. 4 wonderful kids, beautiful wife. Been gone the last 2 days, so got to see my kids today for the first time since Sunday night, or Monday night, I guess. So talk about that here in just a second, but pleased, as always, to be joined by...
Yeah, Devin Schoening, the Instructional Technology Program Lead in Council Bluffs, Iowa, at Council Bluffs Schools. My 2 lovely girls are 14 and 12, Grace and Claire, and my wife is Erin. She also works in our schools. So, yeah, I'm excited to get this going today, too. This break, we were just talking about it before we came on. Our break ended today, or today was our last day of break. And it really does have me messed up in terms of what day it is and what time it is and when I work and when I don't work. And it's not a good deal right now.
No, yeah, it's we were just talking that we had a Thursday to Monday break, so our kids came back Tuesday, but then I was gone, and like just trying to schedule stuff is like we've got things on top of each other. It is our favorite week of the year though, with the national championship. Which we both picked, of course.
That's right, of course.
Monday night, Villanova routing Michigan.
Right.
The Masters starts tomorrow. Tomorrow's
Yep.
Thursday. Par 3 was today, correct?
Yeah, it was.
So baseball started since we were last on. It's fantastic time of the year.
I know we've talked about this at least every year that we've been on doing this, that this is certainly one of our favorite times, if not, I know it's my favorite time of year for sports, with baseball starting and with golf and with the national or with the NCAA tournament. So yeah, it is awesome. And just to go back, I know we might talk about it a little bit, but the Masters Par 3 contest today, I because I was home from work and we didn't have, I didn't have to kind of figure out a way to watch some of it. I did watch the Par 3 today, and it was really maybe the coolest hour and a half of golf that I've watched in a long time, and I've watched a lot of golf, but they had Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Tom Watson playing as a group, and not only did they play great golf, Tom Watson actually won the Par 3 contest, but Jack played really well too. He was a shot back or something, ended up 2 shots back. But his grandson, they always have, it's kind of a fun day there. They have other people come and caddy for them, and Jack's grandson caddied, and he actually made a hole-in-one on the 8th hole, I think it was, or the 9th hole. And man, it was the coolest thing, not just because he made it, but because Jack Nicklaus was so thrilled and filled with so much pride for his grandson making that shot. It was really awesome.
That is very cool. It is a very family-friendly day, and it's always, it's nice to see those guys kind of in a relaxed mood, and the rest of the weekend it seems to be so intense, rightfully so, but it is nice to see them in a little bit more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really was just kind of one of the coolest things I think I've seen in a long time on the golf course. And again, I watch a lot of golf.
Well, it wasn't warm enough to go out and do it yourself, so you might as well.
No, it was not.
Watch it. If you want to connect the show, tell us what your favorite part of this week or two is. You can tweet at us at Dads and Ed. You can use the hashtag Dads and Ed at any time. If you missed part of the show, check out our website. You can watch it at dadsanded.com. Or if you are more of the audio flavor, subscribe in iTunes or Google Play. Just do a search for Dads and Ed. Click subscribe. Give us a rating. That's what the cool kids do. Go ahead and do that on either of those. Also, while you're at it and you got time on your hands, check out the Education Podcast Network at edupodcastnetwork.com. I know that in the last month or so, Chris has said that they've added at least one new one, so be sure to check that out. Taylor Siebert chiming in the YouTube chat box. Just saw the Par 3 video that you were referencing, so that's out there. I was traveling, so I will have to go check that out in a little bit. Yeah, so the last 2 days I have been in the great city of Des Moines, Iowa. Today was the Iowa 1-to-1 conference and had a fantastic time. Presented on creating with Chromebooks. This is one of my favorite topics to chat about. Really, I was telling you before, was not able to go last year, I don't think, but it seemed like quite a bit more people there this year. Had a couple really good sessions that I got to attend, so that was good. Yesterday, our career and content team went to the Future Ready Iowa Summit, which was put on, I think, by the governor's office. The governor was there. She had the governors of Colorado, Governor Hickenlooper, and Governor, I think it's Hutchinson from Arkansas, talking about what they're doing to make their economies and the people in their states prepared for STEM-related fields, whether that be in with technology or manufacturing, or sometimes those are one and the same. And then she signed Secretary of Labor. I believe it's Alex. I know it's Acosta. I think it's Alex Acosta was there. So that was, it's always cool when you have a government official that comes to talk to your group. One of the things that we really took away from it is the value of internships or work experiences. And those can be a bazillion different things. I know that there's a bunch of groups that partner with businesses to solve problems that those businesses have. So like in Iowa, the AEAs support the Authentic Learning Network, I think it is, where students almost do a reverse Shark Tank, where businesses pitch them the problems they want them to work on, and then they decide what they want to solve. We do internships. That's actually how I got a social media intern, where a student goes out to a business and works unpaid, but gets high school credit for it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. And it was really interesting. They had a gentleman from Gallup there talking about the value of that. And he said 85% of all internship experiences in college are, or it's positive. Like that's what we should have done. It really made an impact on that student going forward. Yet so many colleges don't do them or limit the number of them. So for us, we have a STEM night coming up next week that one of our teachers puts on at the middle school, where they bring in different careers that are involved with STEM. And so last year they had everything from drones to the fire department brought their drone. They had the Army National Guard there, or the Iowa National Guard, excuse me, just to expose those kids to what those jobs are and how well paying they are. Our high school does a trade exploration day where they bring in businesses for kids that, aren't really interested in the 4-year degree, to come in and say, hey, if you want to be a diesel mechanic, you can make $90,000, be out of school in 18 months. And so I think for me, it really showed like how valuable those experiences could be.
Right. And I think that's interesting, because we talk about that, but sometimes in bigger districts, I wonder if scale gets in the way of that, like doing it in a really authentic way where kids have those experiences. I know that, in terms of exposure, like our middle schools do something called Career Rocket, where it's kind of similar, right? You come in and you get some exposure to some careers. But the actual internship or the actual authentic experience becomes really, really difficult with thousands and thousands of kids. And I wonder if that gets in the way, because I know that, like our Tucker Center Career Center, Career and College Center, they have all kinds of experiences like that, right? So they'll go work at the hospital, or they'll go work, in actual places and learn the field. But and even though I believe it's one of the most important things that kids can do, one of the most powerful and kind of lasting, sticky things kids can do, I wonder how you scale it. If it really is important for every kid, how do you scale that?
I think that, and this got brought up the other day, kids just need to be exposed to what's out there, because there's still a stigma around certain things. So, you know, maybe not all 8th graders go visit the hospital, but they're somehow, whether it's through like a day or whatever,
Right.
they do. They have someone come in and talk about what it looks like to work in a hospital. So
Right.
then they can take advantage of that Tucker Center to go do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we commented on yesterday, there's a lot of those partnerships that only like 8 kids get to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, is that because of the lack of scalability of that program or project? I don't know. It would be interesting to learn more. But I think
and at the Future Ready summit that you were at, did they talk about that at all? Was it about exposure more than anything else, or what was were there recommendations they were making for schools and for districts?
the minimum is the exposure to it.
Yeah.
Just to get kids to realize, you know, that, you know, what that means. You know, actually, Hadi Partovi of Code.org was there.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, one of the things that he brought up is radiology. Radiology, he said radiologists will be out of job in 10 years because computers are going to be able to do it better, faster, more accurate than what a human being can.
Sure.
So he said, you know, a lot of the jobs that are going away, we still have to educate those, or we still have to employ those people. So
Right.
what skills, or how can we train people to change their skill set?
Yeah.
Iowa Western actually talked about, Iowa Western was there, the community college that's in our area, talked about how they partnered with a local manufacturing company. There's 4 or 5 of them in the area. And they said they started looking around and realizing that their talent pool is getting old.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, if someone retires, they go hire from this other company and pay the guy more. Well, when that other company needs somebody, they go pull somebody from them and pay them more. And they said finally they realized we need to start training people. And so they partnered with Iowa Western to build this center to train people how to use these machines. And, you know, they said at first they were going after high schoolers, but now they're going after people who are on unemployment.
Yeah.
You know, you want a job, we'll train you and you know, pay you for that. And then they have new blood in the workforce. So I think in schools, you know, the farther down, it's the exposure to it. But then how do we do some of those experiences for kids?
And that's the thing. I think when we talk about, you know, best experiences for kids that we know of, you know, if we just talk even Iowa, you know, we talk about Iowa Big, we talk about the Waukee Apex program. You know, we talk about some of these things that are still really limited numbers of kids. And while I don't think either of us would disagree that those are amazing experiences for kids, I still wonder about scale or if that's even necessary. You know, like there are plenty of kids that I can think of that I'm aware of that they simply do need the exposure. They need to know what in areas that they might even be interested in, what are the options, you know, and what are the options for 3 or 4 different areas, because I don't know as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid what I'm going to do. So I do think exposure is important. I just wonder about those other experiences because they're so stinking important for those kids, and the kids who do end up kind of undertaking those authentic experiences or getting an internship. It's a powerful thing for them.
Yep, absolutely. I know, like in Papillion, they have a zoo academy and I think it's called Health Services Academy, and they had a waiting list after 70 kids to go down there. But I also know, like Waukee Apex has 16 in one group and 17 in another, and so I don't know if that's a max. I don't know exactly, you know, if they're turning kids away or how that works. I know they have to apply for it, but yeah, I don't know. Side note, we need to get to Dad Moment of the Week so we can get Nick in here.
Yes.
So at Future Ready, you just mentioned Iowa Big in Cedar Rapids. They built a virtual reality tour of a war train from World War I. It is crazy. It's going to be a like an interactive element at their, I think it's the National Czech Bohemian Museum, whichever one is in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
But I got to see this lady. She had the headset on, and you could see her like walking down the train and like picking stuff up. And these
Right.
kids built it for the music. I mean, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was showing the people from my district that I was with. I was like, look at what they're doing, and they're just like, okay. I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah. No kidding.
But anyway, well, we'll talk a little bit more career and tech ed with Nick. He did chime in on the chat. He said their manufacturing companies tell us the average employee age is 55 plus. And those
crazy.
aren't jobs that are going away. They don't look like they did 30, 40 years ago. But there's more people, and some of those jobs are automated. So how do we provide a workforce for them? So,
right. Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Dad moment of the week is a pre-moment of the week, which means it hasn't happened yet. The Easter Bunny was kind enough to bring us tickets to the Mercy Me concert in Omaha tomorrow night. So we are taking our 5-year-old to her first concert. Awesome. Kids all get to stay up late because it doesn't start till 7, which means I have to stay up late. So we'll see how that goes. But we haven't ever taken like the majority of the family to a concert. It's been like Maddox and I have gone, or I think Kate took the 2 older ones one time, but we're leaving the baby at home, but the kids are pretty excited. They enjoy Mercy Me and music like that, which quite honestly has gotten a whole lot better since back in the day when I was a kid. Sure. We do diversify our musical tastes around here, but the kids were pretty stoked to find that from the Easter Bunny. So tomorrow night should be a good night.
Yeah, that's awesome. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, that'll be fun. We my dad moment of the week has to do with both being kind of a dad and a husband, I suppose. We had obviously break, and the girls want to do something. We don't typically have a spring break to speak of, but having this time off, so we took a couple days with the kids and went to Des Moines and just kind of hung out. Actually, it was one night, kind of 2 days, one night, and hung out there. And then we went, Aaron and I just went to Kansas City for a couple days, just kind of us. And the funny thing was, I know that I can't remember which kid it was, but maybe Gracie saying, why do you want to get away from us? And I said, it's not about getting away from you. It's about being together, right? And having, be able to do something where it is just the 2 of us, even if it's just hanging out. And so sometimes it is that kind of whole thing about being a good parent, is that sometimes you're doing things without the kids, and sometimes that makes you a better parent. Because I know that, the things that, we're just able to kind of hang out and talk, and that's nice. So it was this spring break, certainly for me, and part of it was being with kids, and part of it was just being with each other. So it was kind of a good deal for us.
So super fan Claire chiming in.
Okay.
I don't know if this is a Freudian slip by your wife, but she says superfan is hoping she gets a shout out for the sad moment of the week.
Yeah, the sad moment of the week. Maybe that's going to be a new segment that we do. We'll do the sad moment of the week right after the dad moment of the week.
Is that a good way to bring in a guest, though?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it might not be.
I hope this isn't your sad moment of the week.
Exactly. We do sad moment of the week just as the guest walks in. And it's like, yeah, well, anyway, we'll have to work on that. I don't see, when we first started this show, however many years ago, there was like sound effects in Google Hangout. Yes. Yeah, they don't have that anymore. We could have the sad trombone, which again would be awkward when a guest walks in.
Probably not the best. Yeah, we might have to think about placement, but
yeah,
we'll see what we can do.
Anyway, let's move on from that and enjoy a happy moment for the week. We are pleased to be joined by Nick Polyak. Did I say that right?
Polyak.
Polyak. All right, I knew it.
Enough.
Hey, you know what? You're not the first. You're not going to be the last. Nick is superintendent at Leyden High School District 212, author of the book The Unlearning Leader, and co-founder of the chat that just got done or just happened in the last hour or so, Soup Chat, not
Yep.
Campbell's soup, short for superintendent. Nick, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm honored to be here.
Well,
Yeah, we're great. And had I known, I'll say this before, had I known you were going to wear that shirt, I would have worn mine. And actually, Claire, my daughter, who we were just talking about, has hers as well. She came with me one year to the one-to-one symposium at Leyden, and just loved it. So she was there, kind of my co-presenter for a couple of days, and has her own T-shirt. So I should have thought about that, and I would have worn my T-shirt tonight too.
So since
you want this one, Devin? I can give this one to you.
Now we're back to sad moment of the week. So for those of you listening that cannot see, Nick has his Leyden Pride T-shirt on, which is one of the things that we will end up talking about here in a little bit. Oh, yeah. All right. Not sure how to transition out of that one. So you just wrapped up Soup Chat, which you, as I mentioned, as co-founder tonight, is hottest topics in ed tech, which is something that both of us should know something about. Some people will debate that. Yeah. What did you decide are the things that we need to know about and that the superintendents need to know about?
Well, this month, Mike Lubelfeld and I, we actually borrowed from our friends at ISTE. We took their list of the top trending topics for 2018, and we turned those into our questions for this month. Mm-hmm. So we talked about everything from personalized professional development to AR, VR. It was pretty fun to see some of we talked about artificial intelligence and just really all the different forces that are coming into education these days. Yeah.
And there really is so much there. It's kind of a hard topic to even wrap your head around. I want to go back one step though before we get into some school stuff. Will you, tell us a little bit about you and your role and your kind of a brief your career in education, a little bit about your family?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I've been married to my amazing wife Kate for almost 18 years. We met in our orientation group the first day on campus in college, and we were dating within about a week. And then I proposed to her. We got engaged the day before graduation. And so we've been married for 18 years now. We have 4 children. Our oldest is a freshman in high school, which is crazy. And our youngest is in 4th grade. So we are running in every direction. So that's my family. Me, I was a high school math teacher, became a dean. I was a coach. I coached soccer and tennis in the Chicago suburbs. I was a assistant principal, director, kind of a curriculum director, and I've been a superintendent now for 9 years, all in Illinois, 3 different school districts.
That's very cool. What do you think, now that you're pretty much ancient as a superintendent, being there for 9 years, what do you think the most important role of a superintendent is?
I tell people all the time, my job is to create the environment and get out of the way. Yeah. I want to be the one that takes down the barriers and lets people do good things, not the one that puts up the barriers and installs us. And so I always say it's imperative on us to create a culture of innovation, to allow the freedom to be the yes person as much as we can be. That's what I see my role is. And I'm the one that kind of covers up things and keeps them away from the teachers. So I'll deal with the finances. I'll deal with the community relations and the board relations and those bigger things to let the teachers do what they do with our kids.
And I guess to that end, it seems like, a superintendency, being a superintendent can be kind of an isolating position, like lots of positions. I'm curious to go back almost to the little bit of talking about superintendents chat, the soup chat that you've kind of become part of and started. How has the ability to connect with other superintendents around the country in a much easier way, whether it's through social media or something else. How does that help someone in your position to be able to kind of reach out to people who maybe aren't right there, you know, just next door neighbors in terms of geographics, but be able to reach out to people and ask questions or have conversations or get some advice?
No, Devin, you hit it on the head. The superintendency used to be, I think, a very lonely profession. You're the only one in your district. You're supposed to have the answers. You don't want to show weakness. And so change that. I mean, that was part of the origin of Soup Chat. It was a way for us to come together under the concept of we're all better together. I think the good superintendents come from a place of humility that I can't and I don't know all the answers. So if I can plug into this network of people, we're all going to be better. And so whether it's Twitter, really between Twitter and Voxer, I use them daily to connect with other superintendents across the country. And so I can't imagine my job without those tools.
And I would say just a quick follow-up to that before I turn that over to Josh. He was ready to jump in with something. Because you've been a superintendent, you said 9 years, right? Is that what you said?
This is my 5th year. I'm about done with my 5th year at Leyden, and I was 4 years at another district prior.
Right. Okay. And so that whole thing, though, that it almost is like in that 5 years, though, it's been that way. That ability to connect has been there for those 5 years. I wonder, you know, sometimes I think about people who've been doing it maybe even longer than that, or who've, you know, I know that the superintendent that was in our district, and she retired last year. You know, she'd been doing it for a long, long time. And had kind of just started, I think, figuring out that whole like, ooh, I can talk to other superintendents in other places and connect with them. I wonder if that just, you know, and this is true, I think, for superintendents and principals and teachers, you know, if you've started doing that job, really doing that job in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's just the way the work is done now. I wonder how it changes that work moving forward, where, you know, somebody who becomes a superintendent now, for instance, that would seem like it should just be part of the job, right?
Yes. However, I think the superintendency for a long time was the job people went into for their last maybe 5 years before retirement. And so a lot of times people step into these roles at a place where social media isn't part of their toolbox. And so, you know, Mike Lubelfeld and I, we run Soup Chat, but we also do a ton of professional development for superintendents around the importance of social media and social media in the 21st century, and, you know, how to be a modern superintendency. And that's what the Unlearning Leader was all about. It was, what do we need to stop doing and start doing, you know, to kind of provide the future our kids need.
Right.
So like, yes, but for superintendents that are in their 30s and 40s, that's a very true statement. But superintendents in their 50s and 60s, with some exceptions, yes, that's a tougher road.
Well, let's stick on Twitter a little bit. For those of us that have been on Twitter for a long time, your school hashtag is one of the things that your school is known for. And, you know, when someone mentions Leyden, those of us that are in the Twitterverse, we immediately go to that. So I don't know if you were there. You just mentioned you've been there for 5 years, so I don't know how long it's been going on. But do you know how that started, and, you know, what does it mean to you? I have an idea of what it means to me, but as a superintendent, like, how, you know, what feelings do you get when you see kids using that or teachers using that?
So I will say Leyden Pride predates me, I think, by a year.
That's what I was trying to think. I couldn't really do the math in my head that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the credit goes to Jason Markey, the principal at East Leyden. And for the momentum that is there, I talk about Leyden Pride all the time. Is one of the things, you know, not to be kitschy, but one of the things I'm most proud of is Leyden Pride, because it is a way to break down hierarchical barriers within our school and our community. It's a place where students, teachers, parents, administrators, community members, businesses, we all meet on that same Twitter platform to share ideas. So, you know, when you become the superintendent, it can be very easy to get pulled further and further away from the kids. And Twitter, and Leyden Pride specifically, is a way for me to have individual touches on the ball with kids. So the other day, a student tweeted that he has gotten into 7 of the 8 Ivy League schools he applied to, and he's on a wait list for the 8th one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that otherwise if not for Twitter. And it gave me the opportunity to personally congratulate him in a place where he would see that congratulations. Then the next day I happened to run into him in the hallway and give him a high five. And for a superintendent, that's incredibly gratifying for me to know what's going on in my students' lives and be able to connect with them one-on-one like that. I tell the story all the time that there's a local business in our community that tweets its weekly lunch specials and puts hashtag Leyden Pride.
Now you know you've made it.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I tell them, like, why do they do that? It's because they know that's where our community meets. They know if they put Leyden Pride there, our kids and our parents and our community are going to see it. Yeah. And so, it's a way for us to break down barriers. And it doesn't matter who you are. We all meet at that same place, and we all share what we're proud of about our school in that same place.
Okay, so I have a completely self-serving question now. We have just switched, and Devin and I have had this conversation off air a lot. We have just switched journalism teachers. Our new one is very much into, hey, journalism today is not 6 paper issues a year. It is every day, tweeting stuff out. We're really struggling with buy-in from kids. We've got 30 kids in journalism, and we have very little content being put on a social media platform. I have a theory that they have not embraced it being cool yet to be publicly supporting the school. Is that something, I know that you said it predated you, but is that something that you've heard other districts have issues with? Or how do you build up so that Leyden Pride is what it is?
I don't want to say it's the end all be all, because, a lot of our kids are living on Instagram. A lot of their parents are living on Facebook. So you got to kind of understand how to live in multiple places to connect with different stakeholder groups. But I think, I think the answer to what you just said isn't one or the other. I mean, we still do print media. We still do, web versions of a school newspaper and those kind of things. But to get then kids to tweet out the stories. So you share the individual pieces of it through social media. So it's kind of both. How do you get?
And I guess that's really my biggest question is, how do you get kids to buy in that we're all going to, whatever platform it is, Twitter, Instagram, would probably be the easiest for hashtags. How do we get it? How do we get kids to realize that it's cool to do that? We have York, Nebraska here I live in Nebraska, although I work in Iowa. York Dukes is really the Leyden Pride of Nebraska. Their kids tweet to it. I don't know how to get kids buy in to tag their tweets so that our local restaurants will see that there is value for them to advertise there.
So let me say it this way. When kids tweet, who's reading that? Who's checking that? Who's connecting with them?
That's a good point.
So you guys run Dads and Ed. When you see a notification that someone liked one of your tweets or someone replied to one of your tweets, what does that do to you as a person? Like endorphins? Yeah, it's affirming. You like how that feels. And so for kids, if you get kids to say, hey, if you're on a team or you're in a club, we want you to just take a picture and tweet it out to our hashtag. Mm-hmm. And then is the building principal replying? Is the superintendent replying? Are there teachers replying? Because if the kids are getting affirmation, they're going to keep doing it. And then it starts to build momentum. And so you need some key people to give that affirmation and that encouragement. You guys know Joe Sanfilippo?
Yep. Oh yeah, former guest on the show.
Mm-hmm. All right, so like I use him as an example sometimes when I talk to groups. People that have heard Joe speak about their Go Crickets hashtag, and
we've heard of that a couple times. Yeah,
maybe once or twice. So Like when you think about the momentum, because the question I get is just exactly what you just said. How do I build momentum and get people to start using the hashtag? Mm-hmm. And then I say, well, think about Joe Sanfilippo. If he were to get in front of his school community and say, all right, everybody, starting tomorrow, no more Go Crickets, knock it off. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's got a life of its own because so many people have bought in. And so what you need to do is figure out how to build that momentum to where it just becomes part of the culture. I mean, for me, I see it as a personal responsibility. When a student tweets their college acceptance, when a student tweets about their win at a soccer game or their theater performance, I need to reply and tell them I'm proud of them, to retweet it and to say, great job, because I'm affirming and I'm building that culture through whatever platform I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, before I let Devin ask another question, as I was scrolling through your Twitter account earlier, you definitely lived that out, because there's way more, other than the chat, there's way more content from other people in your district than there is from you. So, you do a very good job of modeling that, which is a key thing.
I'm glad that comes through. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll jump in on that with a kind of the hard-hitting question of the day too. Is Jason? You mentioned Jason Markey earlier, the principal at East Leyden. Jason's been on the show before as well, and so really, what I want probably from you is give us some dirt on Jason, something we can use against Jason. Jason and I are pretty close. We chat every once in a while. Some dirt I can use on Jason next time I see him.
Well, I would say we're in the middle of a construction project, and as part of the project, we had to take out our car charging stations this week. And so I think Jason has had to push his car home for a couple of days because he hasn't been able to recharge when he comes to work.
His Leaf, that's right. All right, I will give him a hard time about that soon. But
send him an extension cord.
In all honesty, Jay, with you, I've had the pleasure of meeting you and hanging out with Jason and being at Leyden a few times, and it really is a great place. And you mentioned the online culture with Leyden Pride and with the hashtag, but I would say that and I've been at East Leyden more than West, but there's that same kind of feeling in the schools. So when I'm there, I've left feeling that same thing, like, man, what a unique place. And in terms of, like, if we take it offline now, if we just take it to the physical buildings, how do you build and gain momentum in the actual culture of a building, not necessarily thinking about the online part and the hashtag?
Oh boy, I mean, I think that's a $1 million question. How do you build and sustain a good culture in your school building, where kids feel safe and they feel honored? You mentioned that Mike and I wrote the book, The Unlearning Leader. That we wrote a second book this year called Student Voice: From Invisible to Invaluable. Mm-hmm. And I think as much as I want to promote that culture of innovation, where people are free to take risks, and that's empower from the student all the way up to the board and the administrators, student voice, we added 2 years into our high school now has a student that sits on the school board with the 7 elected adults. You think about the message that sends to the kids is that you have an important constituency and we want your opinion represented at the board table with everybody else. When we have strategic planning, we bring students in and put them at the table. And so up and down the organization, how are we telling our students that you're important? These buildings belong to you, not to me. Like, I'm the hired help.
Right.
I'm the person the elected board members just put in the seat to hire principals and teachers and make sure the place runs. This place doesn't belong to me. So, that's a cultural mindset, I think, Devin.
Yeah, and to go along with that, one of the things I remember from being there, I think I remember you saying this at an opening or something there, but talking about in the actual board room, what's on the wall is, I think it says what's best for kids, or at least it did at some point, what's best for kids. And I think that's part of that whole culture thing, right? I mean, there are so many places where maybe that's not that it's not what they believe, but it's not what they what they show and what they recognize and what they value. And I really have always thought that what a great thing to have up, for everybody to see, is the decisions that we make are always based on what's best for kids.
Yeah, that's it. On our boardroom wall, it says what's best for the kids. And, just for an example of that, at a recent board meeting, our board voted to eliminate class rank and valedictorian and salutatorian, starting with our incoming freshmen, just as a way to help empower kids to really follow their passions and not follow, numerical goals.
Mm-hmm.
But when the board was discussing that, before they took their vote, they turned to the two students on the school board and said, "Tell us what you think."
Mm.
And for me as a superintendent, it was like one of the coolest experiences of my career to see the adults running the school district turn to students in the school district and get their opinion before taking a vote. Like, that was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
One of the things, we'll do one more education question, then we'll talk about the dad part of Dads and Ed. We were talking before we came on, and you chimed in about, career and technical ed. And, we talked a little bit about some of the experiences we give our kids and things that we're doing. What are some things that, and it seems, STEM and STEAM and all those acronyms seem to be, the big thing these days. What are some things that you guys are doing with career and technical ed with your two high schools?
Oh man, that's a whole nother chat. I have this very, very firm belief that schools don't exist in a vacuum. We are part of a community. And so if we're not preparing a work-ready workforce for our local community, our community is not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this incredible manufacturing hub throughout the Leyden community. And so we have CNC shops, advanced manufacturing shops in both of our high schools. And we're getting kids with their NIM certification to go out, and they can go work in these places, and those companies will pay for their college education. So a kid can go work there, get their college for free, come back and have a six-figure job in a manufacturing career.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Rosemont and O'Hare International Airport sitting in our district. And so we have hotels and restaurants everywhere. So we have a culinary program. We have a hotel and restaurant management program where kids are getting certifications. We've got certifications for early childhood education and a track for those kids. We've got a technology track where kids get their A+ certification through CompTIA so they can go get help desk jobs and tech jobs. When people come and visit me at Leyden, that's the thing I highlight, is the career ready certification tracks we have for kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember, I'll add to that before kind of asking a final question here. Again, because I've been there a few times, but it seemed like every time I was there, either lunch was provided by the kids or the things that were shared there were created by the kids. It's always been a culture that I enjoyed because of that. So much of the work, not even the work, so much of the experience that the adults were having were because of the kids. And I really do love that. One of the things that, the kind of point of this whole podcast for us was getting together and having some chats and having some fun, but thinking about that intersection of being an educator and being a parent. And so curious, one question we kind of like to ask everybody is how has each of those kind of impacted the other? So for instance, how has being a parent impacted the way that you are as an educator, and how has maybe being an educator for a number of years impacted the way that you parent?
Here's a story for you. So when I started, I became a superintendent at the age of 30 in a little school district in central Illinois. And I followed a guy who was retiring, who was an empty nester. And he and his wife went to every single event. They went to every baseball game, football game, basketball game, every play. They were at everything. And so I started that job, and I was petrified. First of all, I had no idea what I was doing. But I also felt like I had to live up to that reputation. Mm-hmm. And so I went to everything. And, by doing that, I missed everything for my children. I was never home because I was trying to live up to that expectation. Mm-hmm. And so when I made the change to Leyden 5 years ago, I told myself I can't keep doing that. because I have young kids who need a dad. And so I've had to really strike that balance between how many work events do I go to.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go to board meetings. I've got to be at certain events, community events and things. But my kids are my daughter's playing tennis and badminton in high school right now. My boys are playing basketball and volleyball in junior high, and they deserve their dad to be there. And so I've had to make that conscious decision to really force the balance. I don't feel like I do either of them well, or that I can do either of them well.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about balance a lot. And for whatever reason, no one's given us an answer for us to get it all figured out yet. So don't worry. We're all in the same boat with that. Nick, we appreciate having you here. We've got one more segment called Sharing is Caring, where you're allowed to share anything that you want. Do you have a minute to stick around?
Of course.
All right, well, we'll let you go last because since we spring this on you, we give you a few minutes to actually, think of something. So I'm going to start out with my new favorite podcast. This is not educationally related at all, but it is Masters related. We did talk about the Masters earlier. Marty Smith, who is a reporter for ESPN, is hilarious. He has started a new podcast within the last couple of months called Marty Smith's America Podcast. I am going to tweet out the link to his latest one. He interviews Tiger Woods. I'm only about halfway through it because the school card that I took, I couldn't figure out how to connect my iPhone to the Ford Fusion. So I only got to listen to a little bit of it tonight. But it's hilarious. Tonight they were telling a story about how they faked a live interview so that they could get out of the Great Wall of China in time to go back and meet Ronaldo. And then just a really interesting interview with Tiger Woods. The part that I'm on right now is he was talking about the impact his dad had on him and, just a little bit about his comeback. And so it is, they're only about 3 episodes in, I think, but just a fantastic podcast and funny. If you ever listen to him and Ryan McGee on ESPN, the radio, they're just 2 Southern guys that like hillbilly stuff and to have a good time. So Marty Smith's America Podcast, I will tweet out the link and put it in the show notes as well. So
mine is an article that I read recently. It was actually an opinion piece from the New York Times at the end of March. And the title of the piece was "Stop Asking About My Kids' College Plans." And really the point of it was to think about, that's not the most important thing ever. What's really important is this idea of what are kids curious about and what should we be having conversations with them about? And there are all these other things kind of happening in their lives that maybe don't revolve around what AP classes they're taking, what colleges they're applying to. Not that those aren't great things. But maybe it's not the thing that we should always focus on. So I just thought it was an interesting piece, again, from the end of March, from the New York Times, that I shared the link on the hashtag. And it's just kind of an interesting read if we, as we talk and think about what's the purpose of school and what's the purpose of parenting too.
Very cool. I will have to check that out. I did just retweet it on Dad's Net as well. So Jason, you see our contributions, which are on opposite ends of the spectrum. You can also do a person, whatever you would like. We stall enough for you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got this. Before I do my sharing is caring, I do want to give you a bridge back to your last podcast, which I listened to today, just to figure out what I was getting myself into. And you guys were talking about your
it's better than most
your amateur bracketology.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out. I am a alma mater of Loyola University Chicago.
Nice.
I was going to ask that. So, yeah, I knew that.
I got to ride the train all the way to the Final Four, which is pretty awesome.
No, that was very cool.
Your guys' picks out of the Sweet 16 were pretty awful. I just want to let you guys know that.
Yes, they were. Now, see, here's the thing. The important part of that, that data, you take the important parts of data. The important part of that data set that we talked about last week is that we both picked Villanova to win.
It's true.
Not the Sweet 16 or the rest of my bracket.
True.
You can tell yourself whatever you'd like. That's fine.
Amazing how that works, huh?
Right.
No, you mentioned our book, and obviously I'm thrilled about that. And Mike and I get to do a lot of presenting on that topic because we really believe in the importance of unlearning our old realities, stopping. That's the way we've always done it in order to make room for what our kids need for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike and I also do a lot of work around aspiring superintendents. And so what I'd like to share is, we do an academy every summer in Illinois. We invite folks from other states if they want to join. But we also do some online work with AASA, the American Association of School Administrators, to train aspiring superintendents across the country, to get people in the right mindset and to kind of bring up the bullpen, if you will, of the next generation of school leaders. So, if any of your listeners are interested in those things, if you can share out my Twitter handle, happy to connect people and happy to help people get there, because superintendents are retiring in droves, and we need another generation of leaders that are going to kind of create great schools for our kids.
That's
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, we will definitely share that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was thinking another fun Loyola fact: your head coach went to college here in Omaha.
Okay.
He played at Creighton. So that's all I got. That's the closest I can get.
It's well done, Josh.
Yeah, I try, All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the evening. Nick, again, thank you so much. We appreciate, not only what you do for kids and for our beloved profession, but we also appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight.
Hey, anytime, guys. Enjoy that Mercy Me concert. I'm jealous.
I am so pumped. I love the Easter Bunny. All right, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
All right.
Good night.